Welcome to A Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes, and today I'm delighted to be joined by Anthony Haggerty for the big one. Tony, it's massive, but before we get into team news and talking about the game itself, let's take a moment just to remember the 66 who didn't come back from a game 50 years ago. We just watched a really poignant tribute there on the footage before the game kicks off. Terrible times. You were telling me before we came on live, your dad was at that game.
My dad was at that game, yeah, and he was up the other end, so there but for the grace of God, as they say. And, you know, today, we touched upon it off air, but today is a lot about opposition, it's about rivalry, it's about divide, but, you know, for want of better words, but for me today is also about unity, and from one family, football family, saying to another family that we're thinking about you, because there's a terrible, terrible tragedy in Scottish football, that 66 people go to a football match and don't come home. And it's not about the colour of the scarf or the colour of your jersey. It's about 66 human beings. Mm-hmm. You know, loved ones, relatives, friends, and sadly paying the ultimate price for following the football team that they loved. And yeah, I think it's important to remember them today, especially today, because it's 50 years since that happened, and it's a very emotional occasion for the families of the 66 football supporters who, like you and me, are just football fans.
Yep.
We've been to football matches many, many times, and we've returned. And, you know, and you say the Celtic family say that, well, Celtic fans say they're a Celtic family, so if you're a member of any family, you can empathise with how all the families and the friends and the relatives of the 66 are feeling today. Mm-hmm. And I think by way of tribute, a poignant tribute, there's a message on John Thompson, Celtic goalkeeper John Thompson's gravestone, and it simply says, "They never die who live in the hearts of those they leave behind." And I think, personally, I would offer those words as a tribute in memory of the 66 football fans that died 50 years ago, watching the team that they loved and they supported. And I just think that those words are actually particularly apt. Mm-hmm. They never die who live in the hearts of those who they leave behind. You know, and I think everybody should just pause and reflect before we go and talk about probably frivolous things like 3 points and mm-hmm. team formations and
the lineup and who's in goals and all these different things.
You know, it's important to respect the 66 Rangers supporters that died that terrible day, and may God bless them, and hopefully they may rest in peace. You know, they're still resting in peace, and yeah.
Amen to that. Amen to that. I had the opportunity to speak to people like, you know, Neely Mockin's son, also Neely, Dr. Fitzsimmons' son, who were there, who assisted people who were suffering and injured and dying, and you get a real sense of how it affected them as well for the rest of their lives, Tony. So yes, the rivalry is massive. It's world renowned. I woke up this morning looking forward to getting prepared to come in and speak about the game. In the back of your mind, you're wondering, will Neil Lennon pick Scott Brown? All, as you say, all the frivolous stuff about being a football fan. But it is important just to take those few moments to remember the 66 and all their families and all their friends who, you know, today of all days, 50 years on, will be thinking back to those that they lost. And it was really poignant, actually, to see the banner up at Celtic Park last night. I seen the pictures on social media, and that was a touch of class. So well done everybody who was involved in putting that banner up.
I thought it was a lovely touch, you know, and it just shows that tragedy has no colours. Mm-hmm. You know, it wears no jersey. You know, so yeah, and it's really poignant and it's sad, and you get emotional talking about it because it could so easily be somebody that you know, mm-hmm. or a member of your own family, because, as I said, they went, or they attended a football match, you know, and it's all things that we all feel and we've done in the past. So yeah, it's important just to remember them, and yeah, and I think the the banner at Celtic Park was lovely. The tributes, the TV programmes, they've been really, really poignant and really emotional, evocative, and really powerful. And yeah, they've done it very well. You know, in terms of 50th anniversary of something that nobody really wants to talk about or relive. But I think it's been handled with class on all sides, and I just hope that today and in the lead up to the game that it's still handled with the same class and dignity that it has been in so far.
You know, the Celtic Rangers game for me, it's different in a massive way, Tony, because you know, I wake up this morning and I'm looking at social media, and again, it's not an exact barometer of society. I know that because otherwise, you know, I would take a lot of the stuff to heart that I'm criticised about. But I just think, let's approach this as a game of football today, right? Because I see all this, you know, this is our city and getting all this kind of nonsense about battles and wars. Let's just play them at football, because I think if we can turn up today and play them at football, we're going to win this game today, Tony. Now, I understand the emotion, because, you know, I've been there getting ready to go to the games. I've got to admit to you, I don't feel the same about the games against Rangers now as I did pre-2012 in terms of that same rivalry. It's different for me, completely different. And the way I'm kind of looking at this today is they're top of the league and they've got a points deficit and we need to claw it back. But I truly believe that if we turn up today, Tony, and we play the way that we've been playing, with the introduction of some of the players who we'll be talking about in just a moment or two, I think we've got what it takes to beat this side. And by the way, I'm not underestimating Rangers. I think they're a solid unit. They've got a right good team. I think a team, first and foremost, in terms of, I think we've got lots of great individual players, but we haven't had that team. We've not had that bond in that unit this season. And perhaps it's starting to show in the last half a dozen games. But another thing that we've spoken about a few times before is a culture. And Neil Lennon was talking about trying to change the culture at Celtic. And I think that the culture that's been implemented by Steven Gerrard and his team at Rangers is now bearing fruit. So I'll stick by what I've said. There's a couple of selections within Celtic's starting lineup that we're going to discuss, but I think we've got enough. If we go toe to toe and play them at football, we can win this game. And I don't think it'll be a comfortable victory.
I think the view of the Celtic supporters is that Celtic have better players than Rangers, arguably, right? But Rangers are functioning better as a team, which you touched upon there, right? And I think that is the case, and I think he's played his strongest team duly in a part because he got injured against Dundee United.
Yes.
So I think that he realises that, Celtic have to go and win this game. Had they gone with one up front, it might have sent out the wrong message. Might have been a boon to Rangers as well when you see the team sheet and think, only one up front, tells you maybe how they're going to approach it, So I think going with two up front with Griffiths and Edouard, bold, bit of a statement. And again, I get back to it. If Celtic do have the better players, which the supporters believe they do, then it's up to them to go out and win their individual battles, and hopefully Celtic have started to show signs of becoming more like a team, and put Rangers under pressure, because it's something they've not had to deal with this season, pressure, and they've been fortunate. The two things, and we touched on this the last time, Rangers have thrived under the fact that there's been no crowds. Celtic have struggled and suffered, right? And Gary Holt, the former Livingston manager, spoke recently on the radio. I don't know if you caught it. And Gary Holt said the exact same thing, and he gave the reason why, because he said he's taken teams to Celtic, to Parkhead and Ibrox, and he said that the Celtic supporters help their team over the line. He said, yet whenever he goes to Ibrox, he always tries to keep it tight for half an hour, 40 minutes, as long as he can, because he knows that the Rangers supporters will get on their team's backs. So he said that in terms of this season, he said that Rangers have thrived, whereas Celtic have struggled. And I think that's a valid point coming from an ex-Premiership manager, right? We spoke about it earlier this season, and it's true. And but I think Celtic are now beginning to get that sense of camaraderie and team back, because he's maybe getting kind of settled formation with Sorrow and Turnbull coming into the team and Brown taking a back seat, you know. But the culture that Rangers have installed is that every man knows what they're doing. They're comfortable in the jobs that they're doing. Defenders don't give much away. So you're not leaking goals, you're scoring goals. And they've swatted teams aside this season. Not a great team by any stretch, or the finished article, but they're looking like a good team. And it's manifesting itself with the results in Europe as well. They're functioning well.
Yes.
And they're top of the league by 16 points. If they win today, they go 19 ahead. And you would almost say that's unassailable. You know? So the pressure is on Celtic today big time to go there and win. But they might revel in the fact that there isn't a crowd there today. That might help Celtic in a roundabout way, having just said what I've said. You know? There's not that bear pit atmosphere where if they go a goal down or whatever, you know, that they have to adjust to that and the pressure of that, you know. So I think, and I agree with you, I think Celtic can win today, but they're going to have to compete for everything in every position and bring their A game to Rangers. There's a wee confidence and a swagger about Rangers, and they're winning ugly as well. You know, the hallmark of Celtic teams in the past. You know, so everything that you see there, you think, well, that used to be Celtic. You know, so it's took Gerrard a while to instill that, but it's, you said it there, they're now seeing the fruits of that, and they're top of the league for a reason, because they've been the best team in the country so far this season. You know, Celtic have been off the pace and not of the races for bits of this season, but it's slowly but surely coming together. So now can they take that step and apply the pressure that's needed on Rangers to see if they can go the distance and stay as a front runner?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been saying over the last couple of weeks, I've been checking myself time and time again, Tony, don't get carried away. We're winning games, but many of the games, if not all of them, I would expect Celtic to be winning. The Scottish Cup final, anything could have happened, but you know, we are playing a team from a division below us. We should have won that game. We made it hard for ourselves. I was sitting at half time very confident in that game, but then I checked myself at half time against Dundee United, because I felt that we were just as dominant against Dundee United in the first half. So I was looking at the performance in the second half. There's a point coming through from Facebook who reckons that the defence that we're putting out today is too weak. Barkas, Frimpong, Ayer, Beaton and Laxalt. I think we spoke all about who could possibly partner Ayer in the centre half position due to the injury that Julien, he done the right thing. He's trying to keep the ball out. He's injured himself against the post, but I was interested to see how Ayer and Julien were starting to develop that partnership again. You know, Celtic fans were being critical of him earlier on in the season, and particularly at Rugby Park when we drew 1-1. We're all crying out for us to sign Shane Duffy back then. I mean, it's out there on the broadcast, Tony, I can't deny it. We were all delighted. But now I think most people are of the realisation that Ayer and Julien are our most solid partnership in the middle. And I guess that's my biggest concern. Frimpong, I think that there's two aspects of his game that have been criticised, and rightly. One of them is his defensive attributes, the other one, the final ball. I think his final ball is getting better. He's hitting the byline far more often. He's getting more balls into the box. I think Ayer, if you play him on the right-hand side of that defence, because we've seen him playing right back, he can cover Frimpong. Laxalt, you know, there was maybe an argument to say that Taylor, if we're going to go defensive, Taylor should maybe have started the game. But Laxalt's a really good ball winner. And I was looking at some stats last night from Celtic by Numbers, who reckons that, you know, it was very, very tight between Taylor and Laxalt. I think he played pretty well against Rangers at Celtic Park, one of the very few that got pass marks in the last game. Do you agree that looks like a weak defence? Are you quite happy under the circumstances with Beaton coming in?
I think the biggest, or the most glaring aspect of that is the fact that the manager clearly doesn't trust Shane Duffy. Mm-hmm. That's a statement in itself, the fact that he's put Big Beaton in there, right? Listen, you can pontificate all you want about it being a weak defence. We'll find out, and less than 2 hours, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You know, so they win, he's called it right. They lose, he's called it wrong, right? So you can speak about everything that you think might happen, you know, and give your opinion, which I am doing just now as well, but it's going to have no bearing on what actually happens. Now, if Celtic supporters are people coming in and saying that's a weak back four, what would they play? Who would they bring in? You know, in place of Beaton, you know, and Laxalt Taylor, as you've said, is a toss of the coin job, and I think Laxalt gets it because he's maybe better going forward. You know, I think Laxalt's better going forward. Final ball, it's 50-50 for me. The two of them are okay. Frimpong, as you touched upon, do you know why his final ball's getting better? Because he's starting to look up.
Aye.
It seems a simple thing,
I know.
but he's going into charging into the box now, and he's actually starting to look up. And see, when you look up, you can pick players out a wee bit better, you know. And see, when you're going at speed, all the pace is on the ball. So if you're getting to the byline, cutting the ball back, the work's been done. So anybody coming in, all they have to do is cushion the ball or steer it, you know, all being well, and you've looked up and you've picked somebody out, right? Aya, you know, most people trust him to do a job, you know. I'm still, my personal jury shouting higher, but that's just myself. I just think sometimes he's prone to mistakes and he can be cumbersome. Beaton, he's just kind of solid and reliable, but again, like Ayer, he has wobbles and concentration lapses.
Yes.
Right? Which is massive in this game. No hiding place today. You have a lapse in concentration, you've got Morelos, Kent and Roof to deal with. They'll punish you. I'm sorry, they will. Right? And they'll want to punish you. So you have to be on your mettle. These players, the back four might to sell some sales will look weak on paper, but who else would you bring in? Because the loss of Julian's massive.
Yes.
Because they were starting to look like a cohesive unit. Couple of clean sheets, gave nothing away. Okay, people will argue about the standard of the opposition, but you can only play what's in front of you. But that breeds confidence if you've got defenders with clean sheets. And he took a right nasty one, you know, defending his goal.
You heard the clunk.
You heard the clunk. It came through on the TV, and you went, and your first thought was, oh no, he could miss a Rangers game. That's your first thought, you know, and it's come to fruition, it's came to pass. But that's why you've got a supposed squad that you can rotate, and, you know, and I think today the managers play their horses for courses team. That's a team that he trusts.
He knows Beaton so well, Tony, doesn't he?
Yeah, and a lot of people struggle to understand why Beaton's still there, but he's clearly got something that the manager likes. And I think Big Beaton, see if you just say to him, look, do this. Don't stray from that. Do this. Give him a job. Concentrate on that. I think he can do it. It's like all defenders, when they start to get time and, you know, they look up and they think, I'm a player.
I know.
And they start to look and think, I can ping a 60-yard Ronald Koeman pass to somebody's feet. No, you can't. Give it to a footballer. Give it to Sorrell.
Absolutely.
Give it to Turnbull. Give it to McGregor. That's what their role is in the team. They're footballers and they can pass it to other footballers. You know, the minute you start to look up and think, you know, Bobo Baldi and things like that.
I'm going to switch this, I know.
I'm going to, you know, me personally, you defenders, see when it's in the air, go and head it. See when it's on the ground, Row G does me. First and foremost, defenders, closing the name, defend. Working finesse and skill much later, if you're that good. You know what I mean? But I'd say to Ayer, I'd say to Beaton, defend.
Yeah.
Defend today. The two wide players, see if you get forward, your delivery has to be banging the money. You have to make it count. No use running 70 yards and hitting the first defender or hitting it over somebody's head. If you're going to run 70 yards and you're going to get into that box and you're going to be as dangerous as the manager wants you to be, then you have to pick out players. You have to look up. You have to see Lee Griffiths. You have to see French Eddie, and you have to pick them out. You know.
You said, and I totally agree, that there's a statement in picking Beaton, and I felt that actually against Dundee United when we had to make that substitution. Julian loves the dramatics, doesn't he, when he gets a wee niggle here and there, and someone described him as like a WWF wrestler hitting the canvas and all this. He does all that, but he just knew that when he hit that post, this is the real deal, this is serious. And then you're thinking, right, this is a statement because he's bringing Beaton on. And Kevin Graham made the interesting point, that's because we weren't doing a great deal of defending at that stage. Duffy's maybe the more archetypal defender, whereas Beaton likes to put his foot on the ball and play out from the back, like what you've said there. But he's made a statement there in Duffy. He's already made a statement by picking Barkas against Dundee United, I believe, and he came out and explained it. How much of a statement is it today that Ismaila Soro starts and Scott Brown's on the bench?
Massive. I think he's putting faith in the kid, isn't he? And saying, we've spoke about this before as well, you now have the yellow jersey, it's up to you to run with it. You know, and Soro is now beginning to look every inch the Celtic player that people believe he is. You know, he and his confidence has grown so much that he picked up that ball against United and thought, I'm having a wanner here. Mm-hmm. I'm having a shot. And he made it count. You know, and he breathed, the Celtic players breathed, because they got their noses in front, and it started to flow from then on. You know, and they were all delighted for the wee man. You know, he ran to the bench, he plays with a smile on his face. Well, you know, one of the few players that actually look as if they love what they do. Yeah. And I love that, because it's infectious.
It is.
We
loved that about Frimpong when he came in, didn't we?
And it also transmits to other players. Mm-hmm. See, somebody that loves what they're doing. And I know they're getting paid well, but to me, a player like that, it's not about the money. He's loving it out there. Give me the ball. I'll break this up. I'll do this. Bang! I've scored. Yes, your beauty. Right? You can't buy that. You can't put a price on that. For me, you know, and I think Soro's now, he feels comfortable in the Celtic jersey now. You know, he's thinking, this is my stage. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And he might go to Ibrox and think this is my stage. The manager's trusted me. Manager's made a big statement by playing him. So go and reward that faith in your manager by giving him a performance to shout about or smile about today. Turnbull, you know my thoughts on Turnbull. Yeah. A baller. Mm-hmm. I told you he was a baller from the moment I walked in. I mean, this is my third appearance, so I get a soccer AM ball.
You do,
ball. So I have the utmost admiration for Turnbull. One, for having his move, or his world collapse when the move seemed to not be happening, and he's come and he's had to bide his time, and in a bit it's a mirror image of Ryan Christie, who had to bide his time to get into the team. Yep. Then had the semi-final at Murrayfield, the League Cup against Hearts. Never looked back after that. Same with Turnbull. Turnbull's no looked back since he's come into that team. And do you know why? Because he's got confidence in his own ability. He wants the ball, he can take the ball. And we spoke about it last time, he can shoot, he can take set pieces, you know, he can put them bang on the money. You know, some of them, they don't, but he knows where the ball should go. He knows his targets he's picking out. He's accurate with the low shot against Dundee United. You know, I've seen better shots than that. No go in, but it was accurate. It was low and it was accurate. You know, and so for me, that's what a midfielder who's always thinking, always on the move, should do. You know, he first thought, right, bang, low shot, goal, 2-0. You know, you're kind of, that's the goal that, yeah. You know, you start to play then, you start to breathe more easily. You're not going to lose from that situation. Whereas 2 weeks ago, or a few weeks ago, even 2-0, you'd have thought, can they hang on to this?
No.
You trust them now. You trust that pairing of Soro and Turnbull in the midfield, because you're getting everything from, because they seem to be delighted to be there.
You know, bringing in Turnbull and Soro, and they're getting all the plaudits, and absolutely, deservingly so. But I also think, Tony, that it's breathed new life into Christie and McGregor. McGregor seems to be playing with more of a freedom, and he's expressing himself a wee bit more. And contrary to that, I think Christie is playing with more discipline in terms of his positional play. He doesn't feel as though he needs to cover every blade of grass, and he's more effective when he plays like that.
Do you know why? He's been a team player. He's not playing for himself. McGregor was being a team player, but he was taking too much on his shoulders. Yep. And by taking too much on your shoulders, you end up looking like a headless chicken. And then people coming on and saying, McGregor's off the boil. He wasn't off the boil. He was trying to do too much. You know? And you can't do everything. to the detriment of his own natural game.
Yeah.
You know, Christie realises now it's no my ball. Right? My ball. I'll take this, I'll take that. No, you'll know. So, see if you're no thinking that you're the big I am, which he did for a wee while. I don't care what anybody says. A wee conceit of himself and his importance to the team. You know, and sometimes you need that to just a wee gentle reminder that you're a vital cog in this machine, but it's a machine, collective. It's not just about you, you know, selfish, maybe being too harsh, but if you're going to be selfish, you're going to be the big I am, you have to produce, you know. And I think, as you say, the introduction of Sorrow and Turnbull, guys helping him, he's gone back to doing what he does best naturally in his goal against Hearts in the cup final. Instinctive, it's just, he's capable of that, you know. But where was this when, during the dry spell, the 2 and 12, you know, where was this Christie? You know, I don't know where he was, because he would go missing in games, or he would try the spectacular, knowing full well it wouldn't come off, because he's a naturally gifted footballer. He has it in his locker, but he's now playing alongside 3 other guys that have it in their locker.
Absolutely,
three players of equal ability that have it in their locker, and it's a strong part of the Celtic team now, and it's no surprise that they're starting to get results, and even that has helped the 2 guys up front. Do you notice something the other day I noticed against Hamilton? See, when French Eddie and Griffiths scored, first person to congratulate them was the other striker, right? Because they like playing with each other. We spoke about that the last time I was on. They love playing alongside each other, because Griffiths will run the channels for French Eddie. French Eddie's your wee dink man, your wee, you know, guy right on top of him, dink, lovely wee slide rule pass into your man's path, right? And they've got a wee kind of telepathic understanding. They just seem to know where the other's going to be, and they enjoy that. Well, hence the smiles when they score.
Oh yeah,
because it's like they maybe say that's what we did at training. You know, that kind of thing. They have a wee understanding. So how could it take so long for the manager to realise that, when the fans could see that?
It's
fans are screaming out for that.
It's been frustrating.
And do you know what? See, today, that strikes me as a team that's going to go toe-to-toe and play an old-fashioned 7-15 or a 5-11, or, you know what I mean? You know, you score 2, we'll score 3.
I think it will be a game like that. I've predicted 3-2 to Celtic for that very reason. I get the concerns about the defence, absolutely do. But when you look at that diamond, and then at the very top of that with Griffiths and Edward, we've got goals all over that, all over it. Yeah. So I do think it'll be 3-2. You might not like to make a prediction, Tony, but I'm going to try and staple you into one. How do you see, as the players are entering the pitch and we're about to go off to enjoy the game, how do you see this going today?
I'll predict 2-1. I think there's goals in it. I'd probably not. It's probably shy of what it will end up being. Maybe your 3-2 could be closer, but I think if Celtic play, I think they're capable of winning. They can win 2-1.
I can see that many of the viewers are away to watch the game, which is understandable. We'll be back at half time. Hopefully you've enjoyed the first half by then. All that's left for me to say is, Anthony Haggerty, thank you once again for your 3rd appearance on A Celtic State of Mind.
Pleasure.